Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. A fast-moving wildfire prompts hundreds of evacuations and snarls traffic on major routes in the Okanagan.
Drink is needed every 10 seconds. It's so hot. Throat's always dry.
And that fire comes as sweltering temperatures cover big parts of BC's interior and northeast.
No way to really escape it.
Plus,
I have in the past got warnings on my phone, and I didn't get one this time.
no damage here, but the province is pledging a review after a massive earthquake in Russia prompted a tsunami advisory for parts of BC.
People were safe. It was a good trial run for us.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. People in hundreds of properties in the Okanagan have been ordered to leave because of a fast-growing wildfire. It is burning between Peachland and West Kelowna, shutting down two major highways, including the Okanagan Connector and a portion of Highway 97. The CBC's Jacqueline Gelano is at a staging area in West Kelowna and joins us. Jacqueline, what's the latest?
The latest is there's still a long line of traffic, and I don't know if you can hear above me, but there are planes circling. Every 10 minutes, we have another air tanker overhead to deliver water to this fast-growing fire. The air is already starting to smell smoky. This is the first time I'm starting to smell the smoke, and behind me you can see smoke rising over Drought Hill there. Fire crews, emergency crews are on scene, directing traffic, keeping people calm, telling them where to go. But yeah, tensions are high. People are nervous.
And we also know now people in hundreds of properties have been ordered to leave. Tell us how many and where is that happening?
Yeah, approximately 400 properties have been ordered to leave. Properties both east of Trepanier Bench Road, south of Highway 97, and north of Highway 97 are on evacuation order. Folks in those areas can go to muster stations both in West Kelowna and in Peachland. The Central Okanagan emergency response teams have more information on that.
All right, Jacqueline Gelano in West Kelowna, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now, the Cantilever fire south of Lytton continues to burn out of control. It was discovered on Monday and has spread to about 460 hectares due to hot and dry conditions, and it's believed to be human-caused. The Thompson-Nicola Regional District and 3 First Nations are under evacuation alerts. The wildfire is one of nearly 60 burning across our province. 7 of those are considered out of control. That does include the Bear Creek fire as well near Harrison Lake. That blaze has grown to 65 hectares at last check and was recently designated a wildfire of note. Still, the situation so far has been milder than in the last 2 years, with 723,000 hectares burned so far, most of that in the Prince George Fire Centre. Let's bring in our science and climate specialist, Darius Madavi, with a first look at the weather and a very busy fire map.
That's right. Fire danger continues to climb pretty much across the province. We continue to be high to extreme here on the coast, which is not a change from the last week or two. But in the interior, that climbing fire danger is a change from the low to very low danger that we've had lately. The southeast, of course, a little bit lower still, but not entirely out of the woods either. Now, extreme heat warnings across much of BC, severe thunderstorm watches in the north as we see those thunderstorms rolled through earlier today and continue. And same thing in the south, Dan. Lots of lightning, lots of dry lightning as well.
All right, Darius, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Although all these fires are burning amid some sweltering temperatures, heat warnings have been issued for much of BC's interior and northeast, where, as Michelle Gomez explains, it's been close to 40 degrees.
Drink is needed every 10 seconds. It's so hot. Throat's always dry, always sweating.
Park goers were sweltering at MacArthur Island Park in Kamloops on Wednesday, where temperatures reached 39 degrees Celsius.
My golf umbrella, I needed to get away from the sun.
Kamloops is just one of the many areas affected by extreme heat. Environment Canada is warning most of BC's interior and northwest are seeing high temperatures with a moderate risk to public health. Matt Loney is a meteorologist. He says people should be taking precautions and checking in with loved ones who may live alone in non-air conditioned homes.
Stay cool and stay hydrated. So you definitely want to be in a place where you can get the air conditioning, especially in the hottest times of the day. Limit your outdoor activities.
During heat events like this, unhoused people are particularly at risk, according to this public health manager.
People who don't have homes have difficulty cooling off and staying cool. They don't have access to air conditioning and often don't have access to fresh or clean water to stay hydrated.
Eric Winchie lives in Kamloops. He's unhoused at the moment.
It's just hot, right? There's no way to really escape it. If we want to go sit in the shade somewhere, like I said, if we go to Riverside Park to sit in the shade, they shoo us along almost instantly, right? Unless you look like a normal person who's not homeless.
He says services have worsened this year with fewer cooling centers available.
Last summer was a lot better for support for us, right? By law would usually have water in their trucks. So far this year, I have found that it's been limited resources.
The heat is expected to dissipate starting Thursday and Friday, with precipitation expected after that. Michelle Gomez, CBC News, Vancouver.
BC's emergency management minister says they will review a tsunami advisory that was issued for most of the BC coast. While we didn't see any big waves or damage after that immense earthquake near Russia, officials say the province's alert system worked well. Still, as Amelia John explains, some say they didn't receive any alerts.
Beachgoers are back enjoying the waves off the west coast of Vancouver Island. Yesterday, the beaches were closed after a tsunami advisory, but not everyone was in the know.
I have in the past got warnings on my phone, and I didn't get one this time.
Here, on our way out yesterday, the sign going out of the parking lot, the rolling screen said tsunami advisory, and I thought, ooh, we should look that up.
It was on our friend's cell phone because they're staying at a house. So the person at the house said that there was a tsunami warning.
And then we saw on TikTok there was like people very scared but over-exaggerating.
An 8.8 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Russia triggered the advisory. Warnings went out across the Pacific from Japan to Chile. The U.S. National Tsunami Warning Center in Alaska notified officials here of the potential risk. Emergency Management BC then issued an advisory for tsunami notification zones A, B, C, and D from the north coast down to the Juan de Fuca Strait.
People were safe. It was a good trial run for us. So if we do see a major event in the future, we know we have a system that should work to deliver that warning to British Columbians, as we all intend.
Not everyone in the affected zones received warnings on their phone. The minister in charge says they want to be careful not to cry wolf.
We'll definitely be doing a review and see what's the best way to get communication out, but there is a risk of doing too many intrusive alerts because people then don't take them as seriously as they might if there was a significant event.
Researchers who monitor tsunami events say there was lots of time to get the word out, but that may not be the case in the future.
An earthquake off our coast, our sensors would be giving an alert that would, by the time everything got calculated, waves would be starting to arrive in Tofino.
By Wednesday morning, the tsunami advisory was pulled back. The highest waves in BC were recorded on the northern tip of Haida Gwaii at 27 centimeters. Amelia John, CBC News, Vancouver.
The BC government is launching a new police unit to crack down on human traffickers, expand support for victims, and help train rank-and-file officers. More now from Saurabh Sandhu.
Human trafficking, a criminal offense that includes recruiting, moving, or holding victims to exploit them for profit, for sexual reasons, or forced labor. And those victims are often women and children.
Human trafficking is often hidden, at times in plain sight, and is underreported.
What has been reported? 4,500 incidents of human trafficking Canada-wide between 2013 and 2023. In response, the province is forming a new police unit known as the Counter-Human Trafficking Unit.
An education team will work to train and provide outreach to law enforcement officers, partner agencies, and stakeholders throughout the BC. An investigative team will increase police capacity and expertise to take on these complex cases.
The funding for the initiative is being made available as part of the $230 million investment into the Provincial Police Service. Along with investigation, the new 12-member team will educate and provide outreach to law enforcement officers and partner agencies. The team will also help promote experts in the field of human trafficking to support criminal prosecutions.
This unit will benefit the entire province by providing education, expertise, and investigational oversight for all policing agencies in British Columbia. This includes the RCMP detachments and municipal police services.
Advocates say this funding is long overdue to help victims.
There will be policy and process that's in place both for the investigative side, but also for the trauma-informed responses for victim-centered care. And seeing that be replicated across the entire province in every policing jurisdiction and every community, I think is overdue and very welcome.
Melter says more emphasis on education and awareness is needed for prevention of human trafficking crimes, as well as increased support for the victims. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Surrey.
It turns out some of Vancouver's pandemic-era measures have endured the test of time. Mayor Ken Sim announcing now one of Mount Pleasant's temporary plazas will get a multi-million-dollar upgrade.
What started as a temporary pop-up will soon become a purpose-built, long-term gathering space for this community. With the construction of the new Main and 14th Neighborhood Plaza, that's right here.
The temporary benches and barricades will be replaced with built-in furniture on a new concrete plaza with separated pedestrian and bike lanes, as well as green infrastructure. The city will also use money from its $6 million Uplifting Communities Fund to widen sidewalks and upgrade lighting. Premier David Eby says the softwood lumber industry would be a great candidate for early resolution in trade talks with the U.S.
The $8 billion in duties that's sitting in a bank account. That money could be used to grow the market for Americans and Canadians. The fact that stability in the market would lead to increased profits and jobs for American companies, as well as stability for Canadian jobs and for families here at home.
Eby's comments come after the U.S. Commerce Department announced it was raising anti-dumping duties on Canadian softwood to just over 20%. Eby says even if the dispute has been dragging on for decades, that's not any reason to ignore it. He's been pressing the Prime Minister to make softwood a priority in trade talks alongside the auto sector. Homelessness in and around Vancouver has hit an all-time high. Those are the findings in new data from a homeless count done in March. As Chad Pawson explains, those behind the count are pleading for governments to respond.
Sleeping outdoors or in a shelter, in a car, boat, or even jail without anywhere else to go, this is all considered homelessness. People behind a biannual homelessness count, which began in 2005, say the numbers keep rising, hitting an all-time high this year.
The numbers are up again. They're up by about 9% over the last count, and the last count wasn't done that long ago, so you start to see a very disturbing pattern and trend.
In 2020, 3,634 people identified as homeless in a one-day count in Vancouver and 15 surrounding municipalities. In 2023, that number rose to 4,821. This year, the count of people who identify as homeless found 5,232.
It used to be a large urban center problem, and now you see homelessness across the entire region, and spikes in homelessness across the entire region, and that this is troubling because some of the other communities don't have the same types of services, supports, and infrastructure that you need.
Homelessness in the region is increasing faster than the rate of population growth, with shelter space not keeping up. Vulnerable populations such as youth, seniors, and Indigenous people are overrepresented.
We know that in past counts, Indigenous homelessness has accounted for about a third or more of the overall homelessness count, and that's been consistent over the past several counts.
The new numbers are just preliminary and high level, with a more fulsome report expected this fall to look more closely at the reasons behind the increase, how a lack of appropriate housing and economic factors are combining in this crisis. But those behind the count wanted the new numbers released now to shock policymakers into more action. Chad Pawson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Part of the redo of the Granville Street Bridge. Bike lanes, yes, but places to sit? We'll take you on the bridge next. You can now take a stroll, a run, or a ride a bike a bit easier over the Granville Street Bridge thanks to some new paths. But as Keir Junos shows us, a few new benches are turning heads, and not because they're pretty.
Well, the City of Vancouver has officially opened its new bike lanes and pedestrian paths here on the Granville Connector after years of upgrades. And one of the features folks are talking about are these little asphalt lumps or ramps, as you might call them that. So they've got some yellow paint on them, all of them punctuated with nice little benches for you to sit down and take in the view. But while the city is always good looking, people have different opinions of these raised bench areas on the Granville Bridge.
Well, everything about it's odd, right? It looks like a last-minute idea, that's all.
I don't know what they were kind of thinking about this.
I was wondering who would sit on them.
Well, here, sit on it with me. Well, what do you think of the view from here?
The view is great.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of blocked, but it was a little better standing over there.
It's a bit of an odd construction, that's all I can say. At least they painted it yellow so you don't run into it.
The city's engineering manager says many parts of the newly opened bridge are temporary, including these ramps.
The ramps really allow people in wheelchairs or scooters to be able to change levels, because there's the high-level sidewalk and there's the low-level sidewalk. We're already looking at the opportunities to kind of do further enhancements, which might involve replacing those asphalt ramps with concrete patios or things like that.
Rode across that bridge once, walked across that bridge once, and it was absolutely horrible. You go across that bridge now, it's 1,000 times better.
I have a friend in a wheelchair. Sometimes downtown Vancouver is not accessible enough for him because they don't cut ramps down in there and we have to find another way around, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Some folks are saying it looks weird, but do you think the function is more important than the form?
Definitely, right? We've included everybody in that, so people with strollers too.
It could be some time until more tweaks are made to the bridge, but for now, there's a little more space to walk and roll on one of the city's main bridges, and a couple of okay-looking places to sit too. Kier Juno, CBC News, Vancouver.
Meanwhile, the city says a piece of art planned to be installed for the south end of the Granville Bridge is now going to be put somewhere else. The Trans Am Rapture, previously called Trans Am Totem, has gotten praise and criticism over the years. It was set to be installed on the Granville Bridge south end loops, but after some nearby residents complained, the city manager's office says it will now look for a different new location. Well, a big name could be coming to the Vancouver Whitecaps, and some fans are understandably excited. As Jonna Bailon reports, Bayern Munich's Thomas Müller is reportedly close to signing with the club.
A German legend from Bayern Munich could soon be on his way to Vancouver to join the Whitecaps.
He can take this team far in the next 2 years or beyond.
The city's Major League Soccer team has reached an agreement in principle with FC Cincinnati to acquire Müller's discovery rights, according to reports from the news outlet Give Me Sport.
Teams have sort of committed to a first right of refusal on that player.
The 35-year-old attacking midfielder has had a decorated run with Bayern Munich, scoring 250 goals in over 750 matches. His final game with the club was during this summer's FIFA Club World Cup, Bayern Munich losing to Paris Saint-Germain.
The European champions semi-final!
Müller has 2 World Cup titles under his belt, 2 trophies in the UEFA Champions League and 2 UEFA Super Cups. All this comes as the Whitecaps looks for a new owner and a new home stadium. Some fans think Müller could help.
His effects on the team and the mentorship, the experience he brings to younger players is going to be invaluable for the club. And I think it also raises the valuation of the club.
A player of this reputation that can bring global interest to a club that's already had a lot of success this year has that potential to increase franchise value.
CBC News has reached out to Müller's management and the Vancouver Whitecaps. According to news outlet Give Me Sport, Müller is expected to be a designated player for the club in 2026. Jonna Bailon, CBC News, Vancouver.
A warm day at the beach in White Rock, where temperatures by the water were in the mid-20s. Thursday promises more sun, but there is a bit of a change on the way. Darius Madavi will have your BC-wide weather forecast coming up after this. All tsunami advisories are now canceled for coastal regions of our province. Those advisories were put in place last night after that 8.8 magnitude earthquake in Russia. That triggered tsunami warnings from Japan to Hawaii. For more on this, let's go to Brent Ward. He's the co-director at the Center for Natural Hazards Research at SFU. Brent, we appreciate your time. We know you've done a lot of interviews on CBC and other outlets over the past day. Let's start with some of those advisories that had been in place along the coast. Walk us through what it takes to get an alert out to the public.
Yeah, that's a great question. It actually starts internationally where a potential large earthquake is identified. The computer will say this is a potential tsunami hazard. A seismologist will evaluate that. And then if they feel it's a concern, they will send out a notice to countries that may be affected. And then the individual countries will then decide which areas of the country or various areas of the coast to send that notice out. And people got that last night.
Mm-hmm. Now, how well do you think the system worked? And we ask because we did speak with some people who said they didn't receive any alerts on their phones, and they were in those areas where those advisories would have been sent out.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, there were some little glitches the last time we had that earthquake in the Sunshine Coast, and not everybody got a notice. So it's actually quite good that happened, because they can now evaluate the system and see why some people aren't getting it. It could be you need to switch something on your phone, or there is something to do with certain cell towers that maybe need to be evaluated.
Now, the province has pledged a review of the advisory and whatnot, and we heard from the ministers about not wanting to put out too many alerts so that the public tunes out. What about the balance there of keeping people up to date, but not sending out too many that they just say, I'm not going to pay attention?
Yeah, I mean, that's always the issue with hazards. You know, you see it all the time with hurricanes. You know, people evacuate and then nothing happens, and then they don't, and then it gets bad. So it's a fine line. Yeah, I mean, certainly the warning was a good thing to do, because we really don't know. That's a big earthquake, sixth largest ever historical earthquake, and it could have produced a very significant wave. So there had to be a warning to go out, and then that gets modified as more information comes in.
Lastly, we've talked about the big one, a massive quake that could hit BC. What is being done now to make sure communities are prepared for that kind of a tremor?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. There's lots of stuff that's going on. A lot of the communities are, evaluating their risk and hazard, and they're setting up evacuation routes. They'll have signage that show which way to go. There's a lot of, like if you think about Tofino, the hotels and bed and breakfasts have information in the room telling people where they need to go. So, that's great. We just need to make sure that the public is aware of what to do, because unlikely that a notice will come through when there's a 9 something off our coast. The cell towers may not be functioning. So you need to know when the ground shakes intensely, then you need to head to higher ground.
Brent Ward, the co-director at the Center for Natural Hazards Research at SFU. We really appreciate your time and your expertise. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Now, with the Friday deadline fast approaching, Mark Carney is being pressed about whether his team can reach a deal with the U.S. and avoid a potential 35% tariff. The CBC's Ashley Burke now with the state of the talks and why the PM is tempering expectations.
Another day facing the same questions.
Any update on the trade negotiations?
Another day with no deal.
As you know, we're seeking the best deal for Canadians. We have not yet reached that deal. Negotiations will continue until we do.
The Prime Minister says his team is back in Washington trying to break through, but gave the clearest indication yet he might not land a deal by Donald Trump's deadline.
These are complex, they're comprehensive, they're constructive negotiations with the Americans are ongoing. It's possible that they may not conclude by the 1st of August.
Trump's economic advisor more optimistic than the president last week.
I think that there's still hope for progress, and if the progress isn't what the president wants, then the deadline will kick in August.
Without a deal, Trump is threatening 35% tariffs.
August 1st is a very big day for this country because money is going to pour into the United States like we've never seen before.
So far, Trump's announced deals with the UK, European Union, and countries in Asia. The latest tonight with South Korea. All agreements include tariffs.
Canada is looking increasingly on the outside, and therefore this increases pressure again, as if we don't have enough, to come to some sort of an agreement that will very likely include tariffs.
7 premiers sent a letter to Carney calling for a deal to include softwood lumber.
We just want to make sure it's on the radar of the Prime Minister and that it's not just assumed, well, this has been a long time issue and we're not going to be able to resolve it.
The steel industry wants relief too. It's struggling with 50% tariffs and says it's disturbing to see other countries' deals.
For example, both the EU and Japan have maintained the 50% tariffs on steel. Obviously, for the Canadian steel industry, this would be a disaster. So we would not consider that a good deal for Canada in any way.
Ashley Burke reporting tonight. Now, amid trade tensions with the U.S., the Bank of Canada is holding its key lending rate steady at 2.75%. It comes just 2 days ahead of Donald Trump's deadline for that U.S.-Canada trade deal. The CBC's Nisha Patel has the latest.
A number of economic.
The Bank of Canada held its key interest rate steady at 2.75% for the third time in a row.
We need to proceed carefully with particular attention to the risks and uncertainties facing the Canadian economy.
While overall inflation has eased, underlying price pressures are still a concern, and the trade war remains unpredictable. U.S. tariffs are reducing demand for Canadian goods. Officials are monitoring how that could spill over into business investment, consumer spending, and the job market.
If a weakening economy puts further downward pressure on inflation and the upward price pressures from trade disruption are contained, there may be a need for a reduction in the policy interest rate.
So far, the economy has fared better than expected. Most exports that are compliant with CUSMA, the North American Free Trade Deal, aren't subject to tariffs, which has provided some buffer.
The Bank of Canada is just happy to kick the can down the road and see how things shape up, both on the data front and also in terms of tariff developments.
The central bank suggests 3 scenarios for the economy going forward. If tariffs stay at current levels, GDP in the second quarter likely fell 1.5%, but growth could turn positive during the second half of the year. If there's a deal and tariffs are removed, the economy could get an even bigger boost. But if the trade war escalates, Canada could be looking at a recession.
Certainly, we have to expect more pain ahead, and that's going to feed into business investment decisions, hiring decisions, incomes, and so I think the Bank of Canada is still very aware that that there could be a delayed effect.
Some market watchers are betting the Bank of Canada is done lowering rates for the rest of the year. Others predict there could be one more cut when the central bank meets in September. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Trump's trade war is hurting the American liquor industry. Sales in Canada of U.S. booze is collapsing. And as Karen Pauls explains, the mounting losses are forcing some American lawmakers to speak up.
They're popping corks and pouring shots.
Enjoy that.
But it's not just a social event. Republican and Democratic senators sharing the stage, trying to de-escalate the trade war with Canada.
It's not just the tariffs increasing the cost. There are store owners just taking Kentucky bourbon off the shelves out of pure patriotism.
The retaliation issues end up being very, very painful.
Industry groups say the sale of U.S. spirits in Canada fell by more than 66% between March and April. Hardest hit? Bourbon, whiskey, and wine.
That's Camp Chardonnay. This is a wine, one of our kind of main exports to Canada.
This California vintner hasn't sold anything to Canada for months.
Let's get along. Let's get business back to where it was. I think everybody wants that.
Even think about it.
It all began when U.S. President Donald Trump started making comments like this.
I say Canada should be our 51st state. There's no tariffs, no nothing.
Most premiers pulled U.S. liquor off government store shelves in response to Trump's tariffs.
The good news about this
is that the Canadian booze is way better than the American stuff.
Alberta and Saskatchewan have since lifted their bans, but the others remain. Now, months later, these senators want an end to the tariffs and the boycotts.
I've yet to come across a businessman or woman who comes and says, oh, I love the tariffs. It's the opposite.
Just get rid of the Canadian tariffs. Just get rid of them.
So this is a Virginia producer.
With the deadline looming for a new Canada-U.S. trade agreement, American producers say they don't want to be forgotten.
When we lose market, it's very difficult to get it back. And then these limitations on trade are just making it a little bit more difficult for us.
The U.S. wine and liquor industry is facing real economic pain with lost shelf space and consumer loyalty. Pressure from Republican states like Kentucky and Tennessee could help Canada at the negotiating table. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Washington.
Canada is now upping the pressure on Israel. Prime Minister Mark Carney says this country intends to recognize Palestinian statehood in September with some major conditions. It follows similar moves by the UK and France.
Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. This intention is predicated on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much-needed reforms, including commitments by the Palestinian Authority's President Abbas to fundamentally reform its governance, to hold general elections in 2026 in which Hamas can play no part.
Bike lanes in Toronto are safe for now. An Ontario court has ruled against the province's plan to rip them out. The judge called the move unconstitutional. But as Katie Nicholson shows us, the province is now doubling down.
These busy downtown bike lanes granted a reprieve by the Superior Court, a victory for city cyclists.
We're just all over the moon.
A slapdown for the Ontario government, which wanted 19 kilometres of bike lanes along Toronto's 3 busiest corridors ripped out, arguing it would help solve the city's infamous traffic woes. A Superior Court judge accused the province of providing weak anecdotal evidence and found that the government's action would be in breach of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, ruling the lane removals would put people at an increased risk of harm and death, and even stuck the province with a $200,000 bill. The Premier intends to fight it.
I believe, and I know the people of Ontario believe, that they elect parties to make decisions. They don't elect judges. And we'll be appealing it.
Good, say those against bike lanes.
I really think the provincial government ran on this issue and was elected for it. I hope they try to speed the process up a bit. I mean, Toronto was suffering. I believe it's in decline because congestion is one of the main reasons.
But one expert witness in the case says removing bike lanes won't help.
It is solidly proven in Toronto, around the world, this is settled scientific and engineering fact, that bike lanes decrease congestion, increasing car lanes increases congestion. Even the province's own experts have told them that.
The research is one thing, but the use of a charter argument in this case cuts new ground, says this cycling lawyer.
My hope is that cycling advocates across the country, especially in Halifax and in Alberta, learn from what Cycle Toronto's done here and reaches out.
In fact, the arguments in this decision already being closely read by advocates in Alberta.
I think they would form a part of any discussion that we have.
Not a bike path, but a legal pathway for others. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
New numbers show Gen Z, the youngest generation that can invest money in Canada, is doing just that. In fact, they're investing more consistently than any other age group. Michelle Song explains.
She's been posting videos for I think close to 5 years now.
23-year-old Arvin Farshad set up a tax-free savings account after watching influencers talk about it online.
They don't teach this type of stuff in school. They don't teach anything about TFSA or personal finances in school.
Farshad is part of Gen Z, people currently between the ages of 13 and 29. 68% of Canadian Gen Zers are investing consistently each year, at least 5% more than any other age group, according to a TD Bank survey.
They're the first generation that's really been truly immersed in social media. So for them,
Accessing information is second nature. I also think that this is a generation that's internalized some of the mistakes that other generations have made in the past.
I pay zero bank fees for my...
This content creator is one of many influencers giving financial advice on social media.
It's done in a way that is easier to digest and understand, and like concepts are broken down a little bit more, and it's not this like huge overwhelming task.
Young Canadians are turning to investing in the face of skyrocketing housing prices and a tough job market. Many are living at home longer and taking advantage of easy access investment tools.
Gen Z is kind of holding out saying, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to put my liquidity and my wealth in investment accounts where I can control it. And at least I can actually have some sort of say in what happens in my future.
I said this before and I'll say it again, but building wealth is actually really simple.
With so many influencers, not all advice is good advice, but Farshad thinks he's found the right information to secure his future.
Nothing is guaranteed, even for jobs, the housing market. So if you have that money in the reserve just for you to pull out from, it's always good to have that.
Banking is no longer just about walking in. It's right here in your hand. And that convenience is making it easier than ever for people to save and invest on the go. Michelle Song, CBC News, Toronto.
The Tsunami men's canoeing team is representing Canada at the World Distance Championship in Brazil. We're going to catch up with them coming up. Darius Madavi is back with the BC-wide weather forecast and the latest on the fire situation, Darius.
That's right. The fire near Peachland has grown to 27 hectares. It is the one that is right between Highway 97 and Highway 97C. We have heard from people in the area that it may have jumped Highway 97C, so now up on the north side of that as well. That is an unconfirmed report at this point, but we do know that fire activity has decreased somewhat, which is good news. The BC Wildfire Service says it is now just rank 2 or 3 fire behavior, which is significantly less than what we saw earlier and gives them more opportunity to try and tackle that fire. It's still an open candle flame, but less active than it was earlier. As we saw those strong wind gusts blowing from the south-southwest, those may also be starting to calm down at this point as well. So a little bit of good news there. Well, tentatively good news, a little bit of good news in terms of the fact that that fire has decreased in activity, but still a dangerous and active situation as we look for the potential for more evacuations. This is an area that has seen fire danger climb quite quickly over the last couple of days. Parts of the Okanagan were enjoying low to very low fire danger for a little while, but it has jumped up along with much of the interior. I will note that the southeast around Cranbrook and other parts of the southeast have gotten actually more rain than usual for this time of year over the last 30 days, which is also good news and unusual for unusual compared to the rest of the province. But if you look over the past 90 days, still below normal. So past 30 days, bit of a reprieve, but maybe not getting that long-term relief that we really need. Here you can see a lot of smoke coming off of those fires that we have in the Fraser Canyon. Other than that, most parts of the province aren't looking too bad on the smoke front at this point, although there may be some more surface smoke in places tomorrow. Precipitation forecast shows that we're not really looking at much. Some convective showers and thunderstorms still possible over the next couple of days, but also very much present is the potential for dry lightning, so not great news there. We're going to see a low-pressure system move across BC, which will hopefully spread some precipitation, but not very much for the south coast. In terms of temperatures, those remain high for tomorrow, though they do maybe moderate a couple degrees here in the south. They remain high through Friday up in the northeast, though, and then temperatures start to come down across BC. Thunderstorms are possible throughout the interior, like I mentioned, tomorrow. That'll look like continue into Friday as well, and a little bit of smoke in places. But for the most part, Dan, here on Vancouver, another sunny day tomorrow, then maybe a shower, maybe even a thunderstorm on Friday.
Okay, and Darius, we have an update on those closures. Drive BC now saying that Highway 97C, the connector, is open westbound toward Merritt and BC Highway 5. Eastbound is still closed on Highway 97C, and Highway 97 remains closed in both directions right now. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
A group of Tsunami men are practicing for the World Distance Canoe Championship in Brazil. They'll be representing Canada at the event in mid-August. The CBC's Claire Palmer, our Nanaimo reporter, caught up with them at one of their training sessions.
What started on the shores of Tsunami off Vancouver Island is now headed for big waters. The Tsunami Island Brave Canoe Club is now training for the world stage to compete at the highest level of the sport.
That all started right here. And now they're going far away to go and represent Canada. And it's our very own Island Brave crew.
The Canoe Club was founded 23 years ago after Tsunami youth started showing interest in the sport. Mike Weiss launched the Island Brave Canoe Club as a youth program for those 16 and under. And from there, it grew.
I love the sport. I have a lot of passion for the game, and you know, to get the results you want, you got to work hard. So, you know, I'm always encouraging our athletes to you know, to give their best every day and to get out there and work for it.
Decades later, Weiss still coaches the team, which is now captained by his son Michael, who races alongside his brothers and says the sport is so much more.
Canoeing just keeps our culture alive. Yeah, just what our ancestors gave to us. So it's special for us to keep that going here in the community.
Oh, just excited, very happy for them. Hard work has paid off for this group, and for them to have this opportunity, it's very proud moment for us.
Since those early days, the team has now won 3 straight Canadian Outrigger National Championships in the men's open division. The nation is brimming with excitement, and the success of the team is the talk of the community.
Well, the whole island, the whole canoe circuit knows what the Island Brave is going to do. All the Salish tribes are proud of them. They end up representing the whole Salish people.
The team is currently fundraising to get the team to Brazil, as they are responsible for covering their own expenses. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
The search for BC's best symbol is narrowing, and so far there haven't been many surprises. We look into the history and symbolism of one of the frontrunners next. CBC's Musical Nooners hit the plaza here on Hamilton Street today. Hailing from Chilliwack, hip-hopper Boslin took the stage.
Boslin is an ambassador for BC's burgeoning hip-hop scene with a Juno-nominated album in 2023. Musical Nooners continue to run every Wednesday here until August 20th.
Well, the search for BC's best symbol has reached round 16.
And while there are a number of heavy hitters in this friendly competition, one of the biggest favorites might be the Totem Pole. Justin McElroy has more.
It starts with a piece of wood, red cedar preferably. Bit by bit, a shape is cut out, a series of symbols and connections sculpted in.
Could be connected to an individual, it could be connected to a family, it could be connected to a clan, it could be memorializing someone. So there's all these different functions, for lack of a better term, that these monumental carvings would have.
They are seen in museums across the world, might be Vancouver's most viewed tourist attraction, And today, totem poles are often returned to their home communities. Symbols become powerful not because of what they look like, but because of what they represent. And in British Columbia, totem poles have represented different things to different people at different times.
Totem pole to me is like this artificial construct.
Jordan Wilson is the Museum of Anthropology's curator for Pacific Northwest and contemporary Indigenous art. He's Musqueam, and the museum sits on Musqueam land. Totem poles weren't as much of their tradition, yet they came to represent the entire Northwest Coast region, a pan-Indigenous symbol grafted on to newly drawn political boundaries.
The image of the totem pole started to represent the communities, the cultural groups of this region, but also Canada, British Columbia, became part of a marketing strategy.
Today, historians who study Canadian symbols note the irony of those choices.
They're getting excited about the totem pole as a symbol of Canada at the exact moment that the federal government is continuing to suppress Indigenous culture, banning the potlatch, preventing Indigenous people from being able to fight cases in court, right? So ironically, you are suppressing the very culture that you are then turning around and elevating and celebrating as being distinctly Canadian.
That history gives Wilson pause when he thinks about people who visit totem poles and marvel at their beauty.
I don't know if pride is the word, but a sense of recognition and who we are and our connection.
At the same time, he thinks about the people behind the totems, the carvers, who made them, and reflects on their own stories.
And I want to really highlight that history of dispossession, of colonial theft, of land, of culture. On the other hand, there was and is a sense of agency in terms of our ancestors and the artists in our communities who make the choice to actively engage and to respond to the changing world and the work that they make.
It is a long and layered story. It is a complicated story. But so long as totems mean many things to many people, it will be a strong symbol of British Columbia and all that represents. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now, the latest on the wildfire in the Okanagan. BC Wildfire Service says that so far, the work they've been doing with aircraft has been successful in suppressing that fire, reducing fire activity. They do say that the aircraft are using Okanagan Lake as a water source and are asking people to give them space to continue to do that work. And they also say that despite the reports we heard about potentially that fire having jumped Highway 97C, they say that it remains between Highway 97 and 97C. So a bit of good news there. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6.
And we'll have your next local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. We'll see you then. Good night.